Thank you so much, Joanne. Good morning, everyone. Very happy to be here. It's in a way a difficult act for me to follow the four other esteemed speakers. So a lot what I would say would maybe, echo what has been said before, because I do think we actually have a lot of consensus, which is interesting. But I'll try to bring in a few nuances and also a little bit of a different structure, perhaps thinking about the building of a future-ready workforce based on our World Bank research. And so I will touch about 4 points. I think 2 I'll keep very short because they've already been covered quite well. Some of the megatrends that we see that really change the nature of work, including digitization and the rise of AI. Then I'll speak a bit what I do see really as a public policy framework and really how a comprehensive response to those challenges could look like. I'll touch briefly on, then more specifically, the skills that are needed to build a workforce that has the skills to be future ready, just to pick up on 1 or 2 points that have maybe not been mentioned so much, and finally think also about what's actually then the role of business in building this workforce and how in turn business can benefit, which I hope is something of interest to many of you who I believe are from the business community, and also very important, of course, from the World Bank as an organization that places jobs front and center in our work and always try to partner both with the private and the public sector. So first, we all know, and that's been mentioned before, that we have a set of megatrends that are really changing the world of work in very profound ways. We see climate change, demographic change, and then of course technological change and the rise of AI. The long-term implications, I would argue, of some of these trends, and especially of the rise of AI, are very hard to predict. At the moment, though, what we seem to be seeing is that, indeed, AI is destroying some jobs, creating some jobs, but maybe even more so is changing the shape of jobs. And I think I found it very interesting, even in the previous panel, when one of the speakers referred to the role of auditors, where at least so far we don't see auditors disappearing from the banking system, but the role just keeps changing a lot, from doing repetitive, very clearly described tasks to working with AI to actually discovering some weaknesses and maybe being able to do this better, earlier, and in a more effective and transparent way. So that means we'll need to see in a way what happens in the longer term, but at least for now, we will need to maybe manage more some of these changes, some of the job creation, the job losses, and the shifting shapes of jobs. And how can we do this? I think public policy has really then a huge role to play. This is not something that will happen in a technological vacuum. It will really happen depending on our framework. So how do we actually maximize the potential social gains from technological change and the rise of AI and mitigate some of the possible negative effects? So I would just allude to 3 public policy issues. The first is looking at the labor market, where we want to probably promote flexibility, we want to promote adjustments, but at the same time, we also need to make sure that these adjustments can happen in a smoother way, with better provision of labor market information, with better employment services, either by the public or by private providers, and with really more policies that empower workers to move from one job to another. This will help some of the workers make those transitions, but some might still struggle. So we also do need to strengthen social safety nets and really support those workers that are being displaced. And I agree that given the impacts of AI on the labor market in the longer term might really be very profound, that we might go beyond what we've seen as the traditional instruments of social policies and really rethink and experiment with how very fundamentally redistributive policies could actually look like. Finally, investments in education, of course, will be really, really important. And that's in a way the core topic of this panel. So I'll not repeat that digital skills across the board are extremely important. I'll also not repeat that socio-emotional skills and other skills that really make workers complement AI, like critical thinking, will remain important. Instead, I want to touch on one type of skills that hasn't been mentioned so much. And this is very fundamental things like numeracy and literacy. Really the basics of education, which we sometimes forget because we get all excited about other things that are also important as well. But at the end of the day, if students today, and even adults who maybe struggle, can be equipped with the foundational skills such as reading and math, then they will be able to actually do what we want them to do, to learn over the course of their life, to adjust, and to be ready to face all the challenges that may come. So this fundamental emphasis needs to happen in basic education, but I said also across the life course, because as has been mentioned before, indeed, lifelong learning is something we'll probably all get used to and we'll all need to emphasize. And I think here is really, for me, the key point where the private sector, where employers do come in. So we do think from the World Bank side that we want to see even closer involvement of employers in workforce training in particular, to really create a future-ready workforce that benefits both the workers, but then of course also the employers. Unfortunately, too often, and I'm not speaking here about Cyprus, but about our observations more generally, we do see a disconnect between what the schools and training centers teach and what the market demands. So what we need is really much more than just diplomas. We need really skills in line of what the labor market needs. So what does this mean? It means aligning skills development with jobs and bringing the private sector to the table, letting enterprises help design curricula, host apprentices, and even certify skills. It also means updating courses continuously so that the graduate skills are not obsolete on day one when they graduate. And finally, it means for business to partner with public and private providers to provide training and to give students exposure to the workforce even before they graduate. Final thought. From our research and from our review of the academic literature, we actually do see that business can increase their productivity and their future readiness by investing in enhanced workplace learning and increasing access to on-the-job training opportunities. So contrary to what's maybe the common perception, evidence actually shows that the productivity gains of on-the-job training tend to exceed the wage gains. So that means, at the end of the day, there's a very strong business case for firms to invest in training, and it really means that building a future-ready workforce is a task we all can invest in. Thank you.